Morning, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Live Show. We're on 5 days a week. Remember, regular season will be off Wednesdays and Thursdays, and you won't want to miss the Sunday show. That's the start, sit live stream. You'll get the why when you give your answer. Not just tell you start this guy, no, give you a why so you can make your best decision when you are getting those big winning picks set. Now, every Saturday, the rest of the season. We've got a heavy hitter in here from the gambling industry. We have John Ryan. He's with the Predictive Playbook Sports Channel. John will tell you about that in the beginning. You'll definitely want to check that out. He also works for RotoWire with college football and NFL. John is almost 3 full decades in as a professional sports bettor. Last 4 years in his 10-unit bets, 68%. And in the last 3 years alone, NFL and NCAA football, 65%. Good morning, John. Rubright in the house. When we look at that type of number, it's 52.5%, I believe, to win money. John blows that away. So you're definitely listening to what he has to say. John, start out, tell people a little bit where they can find you and tell everybody good morning, and then we'll get started into these picks.
You got it, Jim. Thanks for having me on board. I'm very psyched for our second year together and giving some people some good research and hopefully some winning picks, too. It's going to be hard to keep that 65% going. We all know that to be true because we've been in this business so long. But we're going to grind it out every single week, and at the end of the season, we'll see where we're at. I can be found at John Ryan Sports, and #1 on Twitter. If you have any questions from the show, leave them in the comments section, and that's about it.
All right, John, we're going to get right into this. So big week one slate of games. New England Patriots, a team in transition. They'll bring in their new offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien. He ran an RPO-based offense with Mac Jones when they were at Alabama after the mess they had on offense last season. Their right tackle, Riley Reif, is out. The Eagles come in. Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator's gone. Brian Johnson comes in. Eagles also have a new defensive coordinator, Sean Desai. The Eagles had a lot of turnover up the spine of their defense. New safety tandem. I know Reed Blankenship was there, and he did start some, but basically it wasn't a starter the whole season. Their N'Kobe Dean and a middle linebacker. Their interior defensive line, Javon Hargrave gone. Outside, everything's kind of the same, but that interior, they lost linebacker play as well. So anyway, John, as we handicap this game, Eagles are -4. Tell us about this game and who do you like?
Well, I'll be really quick with this one, Jim. I do like the New England Patriots. I had put this out on a separate video a few weeks ago, and the line was at 5.5, and now we're down to 4.5 at most of the places, which I actually enjoy seeing that kind of line movement because that means that I think the pros are really taking advantage of the dog, and especially a home dog in Bill Belichick. And whether you like the guy or not, he's been around for 24 seasons, Jim. I think he knows the game pretty well. And that's not to say the coaching staff of the Eagles doesn't, but I think you got to go with the veteran, defensive-minded Bill Belichick here. Even without Tom Brady, he does have Mac Jones, who I'm pretty high on. I'd be interested to know maybe down the road or today what you think of him as a DFS player. I think his upside is tremendous coming into this season, and he could be the wild card in that whole East Division race with the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets, of course. So in this matchup, I do think the Patriots win this game outright. One of the things coming into week one that I look at every single year is for whatever reason, there's a hangover with the Super Bowl loser. And the other thing I'll mention too, which I think is really, really enlightening, is in the last 25 Super Bowls, Jim, only 2 teams have actually, or 2 years have actually seen those competitors make the playoffs the final year. At least one of those teams, every single Super Bowl, except for 2, fails to make the playoffs. So, you have to ask yourself, is that going to be the Eagles? Well, probably not. Is it going to be the Chiefs? Maybe not. Well, maybe we'll have the third time that both of them make it. But I do think in this situation, they are very vulnerable. The Super Bowl loser is 2-10 against the number in week one action when on the road and favored. And that's covering the last 25 years. So it doesn't happen all the time being a road favorite and a Super Bowl loser. But when it does, for whatever reason, they tend to fall flat on their face. So I do think the Eagles are going to be fine for the season, Jim. But in this matchup, this is an 8-unit premium bet on the New England Patriots.
Yes. Oh my God. John coming out swinging in week one. Everybody take note of that pick. From an X's and O's standpoint, I just want to point out, I mentioned earlier, a lot of change up the spine of the Eagles defense. The Eagles were vulnerable in the middle of the field last year when they had their guys. Now it's new players, a new coach. Communication in week one is something that's not there when you're learning that new defense. There's a lot of different trade-offs and change-offs that players have to make. And Bill Belichick, as John Ryan said, he knows this team is in turnover in that part of the field. And they're running that RPO-based offense, which is going to live heavily in the middle of the field. And so I think that aligns in week one perfectly. The Eagles will get better with that continuity as the season goes on, not in week one. So from an X's and O's standpoint, John gives all the great gambling angles that he wins with all the time. But even from an NFL X's and O's standpoint, this does pass both tests. John is always bringing the heat. All right, then I'm going to talk. We're going to rotate through gambling picks and DFS plays. And when I can get some props in here, especially at running back and receiver, I'll add those in as well. The 3 quarterbacks that I like in DFS DraftKings this week. So I 2 in a mid-price range, higher, and then 1 at the low price range. So first of all, 6,900 is the highest quarterback that I'll pay up for this week, and it'll be Justin Herbert against the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Miami Dolphins, we know Vic Fangio came in to coach them, but Vic Fangio's defense, it is very highly predicated on communication. What they do is they'll play a lot of zone where they'll drop 4 to 6 defenders, and it is very important that they pass players off. Well, that takes time. We know that he has a very good front and pass rush group, and they have a good run defense. Chargers won't waste their time running. But I think the offensive line with Rashawn Slater back is healthy. And, Salyer, he now has experience. He's going to kick in the guard. They're overall a strong line this year. They're underrated. Justin Herbert's going to have time to throw. It's going to be a great opportunity. This is a good week to play him. Trevor Lawrence, 6,400 at Indianapolis. I know the narrative is out there. He's been horrific in domes. First year, Urban Meyer was his coach. I don't count anything about his first year. Last year, Trevor Lawrence made progress as the season went on. He didn't start out as a superstar. He got closer to that as the season ended. So he was still learning how to be great. And he still had his peaks and valleys. This year now, Indianapolis, here's the big deal. Indianapolis is what we call a pass funnel defense. They have Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner sitting up there in the middle of the line. They are very, very hard to run on. Ask Jacksonville. They learned last year, you can't run on these guys. So they're not going to go. When you pass the ball, here's the deal. Last year, they had 2 pretty good corners. They had Stephon Gilmore, and Isaiah Rodgers played really well for them. Well, guess what? Isaiah Rodgers was suspended for a year. He's on a different team now, I think the Eagles. And Stephon Gilmore is now in Dallas. They have a second-round rookie. They have a special teamer in Dallas Flowers and a tiny dude in Kenny Moore, 5'9". Trevor Lawrence, against this pass funnel defense, is going to rip them apart early and often. The last one, if you want to go super cheap, some people like to punt quarterbacks in DFS. Now, it's because of the receivers. It's not because of the quarterback. But I'll say the Minnesota Vikings are a great run defense. They lost Alvin Tomlinson, but they still have run pieces. Against the pass, though, that secondary is wicked, bad. And Chris Godwin and Mike Evans will be up against them. Baker Mayfield may not get a ton of protection, but remember, Zadarius Smith has gone from the pass rush. Again, I get it about Baker. He's not an excellent football player, but his wide receivers have a massive, massive advantage here. And just getting the ball to those playmakers, Godwin and Evans, that 4,900, you don't need a lot to cash. Mayfield can cash that for you. All right, before we move to the next one. So, John, RotoWire, it's cool, man. We're hosting Survivor and Pick'em season-long contest on this company called Splash Sports. So in the Pick'em, I had to go to a few underdogs, John. I couldn't take the chalk and everything in these 16 games, right? So I went to Steelers over to Browns. Browns over to Bengals, getting a couple points, and then the Bucks over to Vikings. Those are the 3, with the spread I took. Why not? And then the Survivor, John, it was an entry fee of $10. You can win up to 4,500. So with that one, I took the chalk. I went with the Ravens. It's the 4 linemen are down for out of the top 6 linemen for the Texans. I'm going to go with that. But if you want in on this, everyone, you go to Splash Sports. You go to rotowire.com/splash. So again, rotowire.com/splash, and you'll get more details. John, the next game, Sunday Night Football. All eyes will be on this one. Brian Dable did a wonderful job with the Giants last year. I really wonder if he used all the smoke and mirrors up, because it was a lot of smoke and mirrors that he was able to get Daniel Jones, and the offense humming. But they don't have a ton of injuries, New York, coming into this game. Jared Davis, the linebacker, is out. That they're thin anyway at linebacker. And then Cordell Flott, who profiles their third corner, is out. On the Dallas side, Kellen Moore is out as the offensive coordinator. Brian Schottenheimer is not excited about that. But the one injury for Dallas on offense, left guard Tyler Smith, is doubtful. The rest of the line, though, Tyron Smith is okay for once, which is nice. But that's kind of the layout here. But, John, when we look at this game, the line that I saw, tell me if it's changed, Cowboys 3.5. How do you handicap this game?
I like the Giants quite a bit in this matchup Sunday night, and it's backed by a ton of information, a ton of analytics. And I'll mention just a few of them. And some of these analytics apply to other games, and I'll just mention the teams that they apply to. And what you do with this, folks, is you take the information and you use it for your own handicapping and know that, okay, well, this angle, John Ryan and Jim said, this. You may not agree with it, and that's perfectly fine. The idea here is to make us all betters at the end of the day. So hopefully we'll accomplish that. Dogs in divisional matchups in week 1 have always been one of my favorite bets for a long, long time, Jim. They are 22-21 with 2 ties straight up. Now, keep in mind, we're talking divisional dogs, which means money line is averaging close to plus 300, which means you bet 100, the dog wins, you get 300 back. So I call these like blackjack type systems. So you're playing the game blackjack at the casino. Let's say in this situation, you played 45 hands of blackjack and you won 22 and you lost 21. Well, you didn't make much money betting $100 a hand, did you? But if you're doing this with this system at getting paid for every winning hand of blackjack at $300 for every $100 that you wagered at the casino, you'd have a big smile on your face, Jim, walking out of that casino, and they probably would make you quit playing if you were winning at that kind of rate anyway. So that's the point, is that these things actually work over time. Who knows what's going to happen in week 1 at the end of the day? None of us have a crystal ball. But if you methodically and with a disciplined manner, betting the same amount every single week, every single opportunity, you stand a pretty good chance of making money over the course of the season. So the against the spread record for divisional matchups in week 1, Jim, is 31-12 with 2 pushes at 72%. These dogs have covered by an average of 5 points per game. This would target quite a few teams in week 1 action: the Giants, the Packers, Raiders, Browns, Colts, the Panthers, which is definitely a contrarian bet, Rams, and Jets. Now, let's fine-tune it just a little bit. If our dog is priced at 6.5 or fewer points, 19-14 with 1 tie, straight up, again, a money line wager here, you're looking at an average of plus 275 on these 6.5 point or fewer dogs. And also against the spread, Jim, 75% winners, 24-8 with 2 pushes. Unfortunately, it doesn't drill down the number of teams. It's still the same teams that I mentioned before. However, if we make them a home dog of 6.5 fewer points, which the New York Giants are, 7-4 with 1 tie straight up, 64% winners, 9-2 with 1 push against the number, 82%, and covering by an average of 8.3 points per game. So when I ran this, Jim, I thought about the Dallas Morning News come Monday morning. You imagine the headlines. If McCarthy loses this game, say 27-17, I can't even imagine what the Dallas Morning News and the media will be doing to the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff. It'll be interesting to see, and hopefully that does turn out for people following the Giants on Sunday night.
And this is why we love John. John gives us the trends that people like myself, I do not have those trends. These are winning trends. John's almost 3 decades into this game, so he gets it. By the way, I want to say hello to Uncle Ted's in the house. Joseph Nelson's in the house. Welcome aboard, everyone. John, the one question that I might get from listeners is, the trend sounds amazing and we're betting that. Darren Waller pops up Friday, and I forgot to mention this, on the injury with a hamstring, and he's a true 50-50 shot. What if we're placing our bet near game time and a pivotal, like Waller's supposed to be like their number one receiver, although he's a tight end? Is that change anything with the trend if somebody's looking to bet? Some people are going to ask that.
Well, my recommendation would be to do the live in-game betting strategy that I love doing, and I probably will opt to do it for this game. And what that means is that if you're betting 8 units on a scale of 5 to 10 units, which is what I do, then you take 6 units pre-flop and get the points, which I believe is 3.5 right now with the Giants. Keep in mind, too, I make the presumption that any injury, any new news that we're going to get between now and game time is baked into the market. It's similar to looking at the stock market with Apple Computer. That price of Apple Computer reflects everything we know about Apple and what we expect going forward. The same exact concept applies to sports betting markets, and at plus 3.5, that is what I would do. Now, in the first half of action only, if the Dallas Cowboys score first or retake the lead during the first half of action, that's when I'll jump on the other 2 units and probably go after the money line, which is going to be pretty juicy. Think about it. If Dallas retakes the lead in the second quarter and they lead by at least 4 points, that money line is going to be approaching plus 400, plus 500, because everybody and their brother, I assure you, will be betting the Cowboys as soon as they take a lead in this game and thinking that, oh, they're just going to run away with it. And lastly, Jim, and I started running these numbers, and this will be an article for NFL on RotoWire this week. There's an increase in the number of games in which both teams have had 7-point leads. And it's kind of blowing my mind. But 32% of the games last year, both teams at some point during the game had a 7-point lead. So what that means is it takes away the need to do teasers, for example, because why do a teaser bet and have to win both bets, the side and the total, when you can start with no bet pre-flop and look for the volatility of the game to work in your favor? And I think, that's going to be, I'll talk about that in more detail later, but I think that's the beginning of a trend that we're going to see in sports betting beginning now and going on for as many years as it's available. I think that is the optimal opportunity, is to use the live in-game to your advantage with all the volatility of the scoring.
Yeah, and John, I know you'll add a little bit more. We're looking forward to hearing a little more live in-game strategy. We're definitely coming back, but that was a real nice addition to that Giants segment. So I'm going to go back to some DFS plays, and I'll mention a couple of props within that one for sure. So first of all, J.K. Dobbins is 6,600 against the Texans. Here's the deal. Dobbins missed 2021 with an ACL injury. Last year, he missed a number of games. He never was fully healthy, but the last 4 games of the season when he was getting healthier, 7.48 yards per carry. Now, he's not running for 7.48 yards per carry this year. I get that. But J.K. Dobbins is a superstar. And here's his advantage this week. We know that the Baltimore Ravens are coming in with a new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. They're going to run a lot of 3 receiver sets. Defenses are going to have to play to that because of the receiving threats on the field and Lamar Jackson. J.K. Dobbins in his career has always faced loaded boxes because the Ravens were running some of the heaviest personnel. They didn't have receivers that defenses had to worry about. Mark Andrews certainly at tight end, but it wasn't like a bombs away attack. For the first time in his career, J.K. Dobbins is going to see room to run, and he's facing a Houston defense that has been like one of the very worst teams in the league against the run. And they brought in some new people this year, but nobody that's going to be an instant impact maker. And like I said, it's transition. When you have players coming into a new team, there's a lot of communication stuff that goes by the wayside. J.K. Dobbins, you also could get a betting prop on him over 59.5 yards at DraftKings Sportsbooks at minus 115. I would be stunned if he doesn't run for a minimum of 80 yards in this game. But you're playing J.K. Dobbins at 6,600 on DraftKings. Another running back on DraftKings, Aaron Jones, 6,300 against the Bears. Now, the new look Packers, Christian Watson's out with a hamstring. But we know even when Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback for Matt LaFleur, I should say, Rodgers only throwing the ball about 530 times a season. That was it. It was not a pass-heavy offense. It was a run offense. Well, they're not going to throw more with Jordan Love than they threw with Aaron Rodgers. But the offensive line is still outstanding in Green Bay. Aaron Jones, last year, if you remember, until he got hurt late in the season, he took over the lead job. It wasn't at 1 and 1A thing with him and Dillon anymore. It was like literally a 1 and a 2. Jones got dinged up late and then had to cede some carries for that reason. He's going to be the lead. Now, the Bears, yes, Sauger's in the house and Juan's in the house. Welcome aboard. And when we look at Aaron Jones, he is going to face a Bears defense that they added names on their defense. They definitely did. But again, it's new people to the defense, and they're facing a strong rushing attack. They're not going to be tough in week 1. And I also wonder, a couple of linebackers the Bears picked up, they were benefiting from good defensive fronts in front of them that allowed them to run free and loose. The Bears don't have that. They have a lot of hope, but that's it. So Aaron Jones, big game here. Raheem Mostert, this was priced before the Jeff Wilson injury, and I know Devon A-Chain's practicing and expected to play, but $5,400 for Raheem Mostert. I don't think they want to lean on him heavily all year. In week 1, I do think he gets 12 to 15 carries. And the Chargers, horrible against the run. They do have people healthy, but this does not project to be a good run defense. They play pass defense. That is what Brandon Staley's all about. Raheem Mostert at 5,400 has the freshest legs he's going to have all year. He's 31, fresh legs. Expect him to get enough yardage to cash you at 5,400. And then for the Bears, Khalil Herbert, 5,300. The Packers are talking about shoring up their run defense. I won't believe it till I see it. They have people who are good players. They have not been a good run defense for a long time. Their secondary is very good. They play too passively. It's really Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator. He has just been brutal, and I don't know why they keep bringing him back. Anyway, Khalil Herbert. I don't know how this backfield shakes out in week 2, 5, 7, or 9, but I know right now Khalil Herbert's the lead back. He should get you at least 13 touches. He might do a little better than that. At 5,300, he's an explosive runner and a great matchup. The last one, you want to go a little cheaper. You're trying to save some money. Zach Charbonnet's 4,800 against the Rams. I know Kenneth Walker's the starter, but I expect Seattle to come in and impose their will and keep control of this game. Pete Carroll wants to play defense and run. Bobby Wagner's added in to stop the run. Devon Witherspoon, they add to Tariq Woolen a corner. I really expect that they're going to play this game smart. They're going to run Aaron Donald and a whole lot of nobody on the Rams defense. I think they both running backs get a lot of run here. And if they get a lead, I think Charbonnet profiles as a closer more than Kenneth Walker, who is booming. He's a great runner, but he's boom bust. A lot of 1, 2, 1, 18. Whereas I think with Charbonnet, we're going to see a lot more 4, 3, 4, 2. We're going to see that those are sustaining move the chain. So both running backs have a big role here. Walker is more talented, but Walker's not a move the chains guy. And so they're going to have specific roles within that offense, I believe. All right, John, I want to tell people to remind them, catch this show, RotoWire Fantasy Football Live, 5 days a week, 11 a.m. Eastern. Remember, we're off Wednesday, Thursday during the season. Sundays, don't want to miss the live stream start sit. Charlene's in the house. Good morning. So, yes, you don't want to miss that live start sit. You ask me a question, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of whys so you can make your best decision. John Ryan, back to talk about, and you referenced this a little after I asked you that follow-up question with the Giants, but I want you to tell people who are gambling about what you know about live in-game strategies that replace and produce superior return on investment to teaser and parlay bets.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple concept. It'd probably take me another show or two to actually fully explain it. But what you want to do is, in a teaser, you're pinned down to doing it pre-flop, and you're also pinned down to winning both the side and the total of the same game. This is very hard to do. It sounds like, oh, wow, I'm getting 6 points more, and I'm getting 6 points less on the total, and I already love the over. Well, that's fine and dandy. To actually make money doing teasers is an exercise in futility, in my opinion. Same thing with money line parlays. I mean, there's a time and place for everything with parlays. I like taking money line dogs, like in college football, especially because every once in a while you have one of those big time dogs. Like in week 2, we had 2 dogs of 17 and a half or more points actually win the game. And that happens quite frequently in college football. Not so much in the NFL because it's a league of parity. There's not really much difference in the power ratings this year of all 32 teams on my research. So it presents tremendous opportunities to use the in-game betting because there's a rising increase over the last 5 years of the number of games played in which both teams enjoyed a 7 or more point lead. For example, the number 1 team, Kansas City Chiefs, we saw it Thursday night. They had a 7-point, they trailed by 7, they were up by 7, all in the first half. So if you used the live in-game Thursday night and played both, you could play both sides whenever a team got a 7-point or more lead. You could have taken both ends and actually middled the game. So that's what you need to think about, in my opinion. You can do it with pizza money, as I love to talk about. And, there's nothing wrong with paper trading. I taught that when I was on Wall Street. No risk, right? But you're analyzing the situation without risking money. And there's nothing wrong with doing that either with these live in-game bets. Lastly, with the totals, the higher the total in NFL, if you get above 55, that's a pretty high total. Higher totals means increased scoring volatility almost every time. I would recommend staying away from the games that are 45 points or lower because they're defensive struggles. There might not be many lead changes in it. But you get above 50, that's where I would put the attention if you like totals. And, for example, if you like the over in the Giants-Dallas Cowboys game, consider betting 60% of your normal bet size pre-flop. That way you're involved. And then look for a slower start. And if it is a slower start in the first half, look for 6 points or less to make it cheaper than your pre-flop bet. And add the other 30% or whatever is left of your normal bet size. And I think you'll find out that you'll have ample opportunity to add that live in-game bet in almost every situation that you get into this NFL season.
Yeah, John Ryan is teaching us a lot as we try to learn to navigate the gambling. A lot of us, John, don't have nearly your experience, but you add a lot of great elements that we need to keep our eyes on and learn betting in game and ideas like this. So thank you for that. Now, remember, if you're enjoying the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Would appreciate it greatly. Also, give John a follow at John Ryan Sports 1. And if you can follow me at Jim Coventry NFL, I'm putting up threads almost every day. Got some prop bet threads going up. So if you want those, Uncle Ted had mentioned earlier, DJ Moore could have a Pro Bowl season. He's in a great situation. It's the first time he may, I'm hoping Fields works out, have a functional quarterback. He had Cam Newton without a shoulder in his first year. And then the other quarterbacks have been a joke since. And it really looks like he's in a position to best those 1,150-yard seasons he had prior to 2022. But yes, this could be a massive season. And Charlene points out, which I love this as well, Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet as like Ingram and Kamara. I like the analogy because Charbonnet is the Ingram, right? He's that sustainer. You got to get those 4-yard runs, those 3-yard runs. And, Kamara and Walker, they both live in that explosive play world. So I think that's a wonderful analogy. All right, I'm going to give you a few more DFS plays here. Wide receiver. We said earlier, Trevor Lawrence might be a quarterback to go to. And look, I know it's his first game with the team. Calvin Ridley at 6,500 is in a great spot. I mentioned earlier, the Colts, they're 2 corners from last year. Stephon Gilmore now in Dallas. Isaiah Rodgers suspended, a whole year gone. Now he's on Philly and won't play this year. Those corners have no chance. It's the little tiny Kenny Moore, and it's Juju Brents, the second-round rookie, and it's Dallas Flowers, who's a special teamer. Ridley, we saw the one. Here's what he runs really well. He runs these dig routes, so they're in breakers, and he's very good running the out routes. Those are routes that are very tough to defend for good corners. Trevor Lawrence throws those on a rope. These are pitch and catch. These are consistent 8 to 14-yard gains. He can get them whenever he wants them. And I really think, remember, he said earlier, the Colts are almost impossible. They're not like Titans level, but they're almost impossible to run on. They're going to come out throwing. Ridley's going to have a great first game in this matchup. Chris Olave at 6,500 against Tennessee. Similar logic here. Tennessee, no Alvin Kamara. Kendre Miller, I don't think they listed him out, but he didn't practice all week. My guess is he's not playing. Jamal Williams is fine, but nobody. Now, I said you don't run on the Colts. Nobody runs on the Titans. Good luck. You're not running on them. So game plan wise, you can't say, oh, we're going to carry Jamal Williams. No, they're going to pass the ball because you can throw on Tennessee. And that's the way they're going to have to do this. They're going to run 2 tight end sets. They're going to protect Carr. Chris Olave should see a strong number of targets against an overmatched secondary. Now, Mike Williams, not only is a DFS play, but his prop is 58.5 yards. And he's 5,700 on DraftKings. We said earlier, Justin Herbert, I outlined that case. Well, the one thing you talk about Fangio's defense, it's going to take a while for him to get that communication when they put those across the board secondary players. It's a lot of passing off. That's not going to be there yet. But with Jalen Ramsey on the IR out till probably December, they don't have a corner to deal with Williams. Williams faced them in week 14 last year. I believe it was 6 catches, $116 and a touchdown. Mike Williams is healthy right now. And Kellen Moore, the OC, they are going to take these downfield shots to open up the underneath. There's a purpose. It's not just throwing out downfield to be silly. It's throwing because you can make these connections, but also you're going to open up a whole lot more. So Mike Williams, a big week 1. Deebo Samuel's 5,500. Now, for this season, I'm worried about him because last year he had less than 9 touches a game, John Ryan. They just couldn't get him the ball. They're playing Pittsburgh. Now, Brock Purdy, and the 49ers know this. When Brock Purdy goes to his left, video started to come out that, his decision-making isn't quite somebody who can push him left. So a lot of defense are going to try to over-pursue and push him that direction. And Pittsburgh, they have Minkah Fitzpatrick at safety. They've got both TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. They're edge, but they can cover. So what we're going to see here is now the cornerback room is a little shaky, but this is the game for Deebo because against that aggressive defense in Pittsburgh and Purdy in a hornet's nest, those little shallow crossers to Deebo, I believe from a game plan standpoint, that is the attack mode. This is the Deebo Samuel week. I think he gets, 11 to 13 touches, but I think there's a lot of yards after the catches. Shanahan schemes him open. And then 2 more receivers. Juju Smith-Schuster, I know. Juju hasn't been a very good player, but he's 4,800. They're playing Philly. We talked earlier in the show. The spine of the Philly defense is weak. They're newer players. There's a lot of communication stuff. Chauncey, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's gone. You saw him play the other night for Detroit. Well, the RPO-based offense we're going to see in New England, a lot of that's predicated on zone passes. Juju Smith-Schuster is incredible getting open in the belly of zone defense. Mac Jones has run this offense with his coach O'Brien at Alabama. Juju, it's a natural for this week against this defense, and they're going to have to score points, and they're going to have to throw. Juju is your man. And then the last one, you want to go cheap here. 3,800, give a whirl to Elijah Moore of the Browns against the Bengals. The Bengals are an excellent defense, but Elijah Moore, Cincinnati hasn't seen him with this configuration of the team he's on. In camp, they use him on a bunch of different, they use him on the backfield, they use him as an X, they use him as a slot. He has 4.35 speed, he has 90th percentile agility. I believe he's a focal point. And again, if you're enjoying the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Last thing I have, John, I know I'm getting a little wordy here, tight ends. Got to give you a couple of these for him out. To me, the chalk play is a good play. 4,800 Tyler Higbee. No Cooper Kupp. Seattle is not a great defense, but remember this. With the receivers that are getting trotted up by the Rams, I really believe game plan-wise, they're going to let Tariq Woolen and the rookie Devon Witherspoon just kind of sit there on the outside. There's nobody I can really challenge them. Van Jefferson's not. DeMarcus Robinson certainly isn't. Tutu Atwell's going to get his gadget plays. Puka Nacua is slow. He has no agility. I know people love him. He has a brilliant name. He played fine in college against weaker competition. Good luck. But Tyler Higbee, he is going to be getting dump-off passes. They might not turn a ton of yardage, but if he comes out of this game with 8 or 9 catches, even if it comes out to 40 yards, that gets you done for DFS. And maybe he scores a touchdown. But I think Tyler Higbee's the chalk play. Now, cheaper, 3,900, Juwan Johnson. We talked earlier. Tennessee, you got to attack him through the air. If If they're going to bring pressure, Juwan Johnson's middle of the field. Remember, Foster Moreau is in. He's a blocking tight end. Let's get that straight. He's their blocking tight end. Juwan Johnson. Jimmy Graham, he couldn't run 5 years ago. He had a nice preseason game where he scored. They got him a nice little touchdown. Jimmy Graham can't run. It's Juwan Johnson's job. And a little cheaper. Look, again, we don't know if this guy's good, but Irv Smith, we know that for Cincinnati, we know Cleveland's going to get pressure. They added to Myles Garrett. They added 3 passers, Agbo Okoronkwo, Dalvin Tomlinson inside, and Zadarius Smith. Getting the ball out in the middle may be useful for Joe Burrow. So it may just be opportunity. All right. So, Joe, thank you for the nice comment. And John, tell everybody, remind them where your work's at. Tell them about the predictive playbook. And let's get people onto your stuff.
Well, predictiveplaybook.com is just being launched in a new modern-looking type of site. It's going to eventually have dashboards in there that you can access my massive databases that I've built over the 30 years now. They've been doing this stuff. And especially over at RotoWire.com, they have added a new optimization model that you can take advantage of and a whole bunch of other really useful tools that I use myself. And by the way, Mr. Jim Coventry is the only guy I go to for DFS information like he just gave you.
Sean.
So honestly, tongue in cheek, you'd be a fool not to listen to his advice and add it into your DFS DraftKings lineup this weekend.
Thank you, John. And, I can't say it enough. If you're betting, you need to listen to John Ryan. You heard it. You hear him. You heard him last year. He is not going to give you just take this. He is going to give you a pile of logic behind his picks. And the clip he wins at, he is the real deal. A lot of people will spout out numbers, and then you find out, that's not the truth. John Ryan posts his stuff. You can see it. John, thanks for joining me today. Charlene, one more comment. I love this. Use Pittman like Debo to resolve the Colts running back problems. Yes. You got a great football mind, Charlene. Appreciate you. All right. And Joe, like I said, thanks for saying a great show. We appreciate you as well. And then thank you for being in the house, T-Raw. Anyway, John Ryan, thank you for joining me. Every Saturday this season, we'll have John Ryan. We'll be on through the Super Bowl. Oh, maybe we'll take off the week before the Super Bowl and there's no football games. That one might be fine, but that'll be about it tomorrow. Please return here, 11 a.m. Eastern, the Start Sit live stream. Again, I'll give you the rationale when you ask a question so you can make Uncle Ted appreciate you, man. And I'll give you the rationale so you can make your best decisions and win your fantasy football game. For John Ryan, I'm Jim Coventry. Have a great day, everyone.